make sure that you understand the creative paradigm you're getting into. There are so many really successful conceptual marching bands that don't do well at putting together a winter program, or vice versa, who have fantastically successful winter programs and are not sure how to make it happen on the marching band field. So don't assume that you know what fits, and don't assume that you know what wins if winning is something that's important to you.
Well, and I think that Tom touched on it, that we've got to make sure that we emphasize is your rehearsal facility situation may be the biggest make or break situation that you have. You know, I taught at one of your former schools before, where we were able to make the cafeteria work. And then I believe they've done some modifications by the time you taught there, and the cafeteria was not a workable space anymore. And so that definitely created some issues for you guys, and I was sitting there going, what do you mean? You have this beautiful cafeteria. And you were like, oh no, they've put this permanent furniture in there now. And I was like, oh man, you know, so facilities are a big deal, and have that open conversation with your administration about, you know, so they don't have this great idea to, like in Jessica's situation, one year, dropping some television into the middle of your rehearsal space. We were at a show there this past weekend, and, you know, I had to kind of talk my kids through, okay, we're not tossing under cameras nor televisions in their space. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, you're about to see, you just don't stand under anything that's hanging down from the ceiling. And they're like, the cafeteria is huge. And I was like, just watch where you stand before you stand
up. It's an interesting dynamic, I guess. For sure. Let's talk about a little bit about shows, and like I know that we've all been involved here in our circuit. Talk about, I mean, like some band directors are like, what is a circuit? Why do I have to do that? And you guys have great knowledge. I'll let you guys just talk. I think it's very important. I think it's critical. But go ahead.
You should jump in on this.
Riley, I think this is a great one for you.
Yeah.
We all have peers who are frustrated with the inconsistency that they see week to week at marching band shows in the fall. And at one show, you may pay $100 and have judges that they found at the convenience store down the street, and another show may be totally free for you, and you've got world-class educators and designers who are giving you feedback. And so I guess at its core, the idea of joining a circuit is you have people who are taking care of those needs from week to week, and all you have to do is show up and do your thing. Different regions have different expectations of their circuits and different degrees of success with that mission. But ultimately, that's sort of the sales pitch when you're talking to someone of, yes, join a circuit. You have peers who can help you then, and you have week to week, ideally week to week consistency in your contests and your surroundings so that your kids are getting better feedback.
Well, and in most cases, you're joining that circuit, when you pay that fee to join that circuit, usually covers your registration costs, or at least in my experience over the multiple circuits I've been a part of and over the years, is that circuit registration fee covers your registration costs for whichever shows you choose to attend, or it may cover up to 4 shows, for example, or whatever their requirement to go to championships is. And then anything above and beyond may cost a little extra, but the circuit is pooling the money and dividing it up with those show hosts and assisting those show hosts in producing successful shows, which is very important, because I think when you go to those marching band shows that are individually run, everyone has their own interpretation of how to run their marching band show, or how they've done it for 20 or 30 or 40 or more years, or if they're doing it for the first time, and maybe the people who are putting it on are not experienced in the marching arts activity, so they have a completely different set of things that are important to them, maybe as that they've experienced as a spectator, which are not at all important to directors, staff, or performers. So this circuit kind of really does a great job of reeling all of that in and kind of tying it up and looking at it from all perspectives.
Well, and sometimes we are part of a circuit at White Knoll, and we do like our local circuit, and we also do a national circuit, WGI. But not everyone, that's not accessible to everybody, and you don't necessarily always, especially if you're starting out and you're not ready to invest a whole lot of money, or maybe you just don't have a whole lot of time, or maybe you're just trying to like get this started off the ground. The classifications that they provide give you guidance. So like, novice programs or cadet programs, if you have like a younger group from middle school, but novice is typically your first year programs, students who never really done the activity before. And so it gives you kind of a guide point, if you will, to know where your students could be successful and in what class. And that will also be the most educational for you when you receive feedback, especially from your judges and stuff. And so, and it's good to be a part of a circuit, but if you can't like go to championships or something, you can still do options to do just like 2 shows. But I would pick them that are kind of affiliated with a circuit. That way you have that guidance and that reference point to like allow you to develop your program. So that way maybe the next year when you do it, you've got more information to help you classify your kids and know how to grow when you're designing your shows and things like that. So circuits are great if you can be a part of one, and if you can't, that's also okay. But as you select shows, like Ben was saying, maybe look at one that should be affiliated with the circuit or something like that. And you can find those resources on the WGI website. Actually, they have a list of circuits per geographic location, I believe. So that can help.
Well, and one of the things you touched on that is really important is on the national, the circuits do a great job of breaking down and dividing up into smaller chunks those national classes. And so though you don't see those classes on the national scale, the circuits break those down in interest of education and growth of not only the students and the performers, but of also the staff and the directors, so that you are allowed to transition up through the ranks over the years. And there's no shame if you were starting your program and you're in the first couple years of your program, there is no shame in starting in that novice or most basic class and working your way up, because the education and the information that you gain as you travel up through those ranks is important. And I think for everyone here today, that is how we've all built ourselves as instructors.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I mean, and I'm very supportive of the circuit, and again, budget conscientious. I mean, when I was starting at Ashley Ridge, it was a brand new thing, brand new program, and we were like, we can't afford to do a whole circuit competition and go to championships, so let's just do a show here and there, part of the circuit, to get the kids' feet wet and kind of start the program on its journey. So you don't have to jump in, completely dive in, but I think it's invaluable, the information that you get. I think it's invaluable, like the experience the kids get. I just think it's really smart. And WGI.org, plug for WGI. I guess the last thing I want to talk about is kind of like how does this benefit your band program? A lot of band directors are looking at this going, this is a color guard. I'm working on concert band. How is this going to help my program overall?
The analogy
we probably all have a lot to say on this, but Ben, if you want to go first, you can go first. It's fine.
The analogy that I use is, how would you feel if your musicians only played their instrument for the 3 to 6 months out of the year that you do marching band? And I would say, then how do you feel about your color guard only spending 3 to 6 months getting better at their craft and then doing something else, or maybe doing nothing for those other 6 to 9 months that they have that free time with? So if you want to grow a strong color guard and a well-rounded band program, then it is important that those students be involved in a year-round type activity, just like you would with any other sport. You're playing varsity soccer and then you're playing travel soccer in the off season, because they're also developing, from an athletic standpoint, those year-round cultures. What you want to do, I mean, because winter guard is almost like a private lesson kind of situation for your color guard team, in addition to additional performance activities, making them much more confident with a closer audience, and teaching them more so how to perform and engage the audience, because the audience is so much closer. So you have to look at it from that perspective on how you would grow your WIN players and how you would want them, you would expose them to marching band, concert band, small ensembles, solo and ensemble, any kind of situation that you can give them to further their growth. You really want to do the same thing for your color guard. And I'm not saying that winter guard is the end all be all to that. You should also look at, you know, if you have a color guard class, having a class project where you do solo and ensemble things, or give them different choreography for local events like parades, or maybe your middle school performance. You might want to go out there and not do the same show over and over again, but prepare them and broaden their depth by pushing them to do other things. If the training supports it, for sure. I want that to be the biggest caveat, if the training supports it. So that would be what I would say to a band director who was not really sure about the Winter Guard program, and feeling like they can handle it. Now, the last thing I will say is that may not be the right path for every kid. You may have an all-state swimmer on your team in the fall, and then maybe they need to go train. And maybe for that one kid, or that couple of kids, them playing another sport like soccer that participates in the spring works for them and works for that kid and keeps that kid engaged in music and the pageantry arts. But for the most of your kids, they're going to buy into a year-round program. I think it helps with your retention rate as well, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I was just going to say, at the end of the day, it's education. It's education for your kids. It's investment for your kids. And it makes them feel like they're part of it. You want to keep that team active year round. And so that way, like Ben said, they're training, they're growing, they're learning. And it allows them, you know, that opportunity to buy more into the program that you're wanting to be a part of. And so I guess that's like drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak, I guess. So that's like the big thing. And it's relationships. You know, the closer your team is, the better they work together, they perform better. And so I think there's all sorts of small things inside of it that equate to big things and outcomes. And so it's just education, in my opinion. It's education for your kids, and it's education for you and your staff and everyone else involved.
I also think it can help educate you on how to design, like it not only educates you, and I think that one educates for the other. You know what I'm saying? I think that the things you can learn during a winter guard and a winter guard process and a winter guard season help you in all other parts of your job as a director. Because it's like, you know, on a smaller scale, if I can do it here, I can do it over there too. I don't know. It's just kind of my thought.
Well, and from a band director's perspective, if you were involved in your winter guard situation, and if you allow some of your WIN players to participate in the winter guard, and I know that situation varies by school, but it helps to teach those WIN players and those staff members who overlap how to set up a better movement program for their marching band. Because let's be honest, this activity is not marching anymore. It is movement based. And so the more you can grow those kids, the WIN players and their movement skills, the more they learn body control, the more they develop a stronger core to help them be successful with their instruments. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot. I think we could talk about this for hours, but I was just gonna kind of wrap things up and kind of tie things up nicely. I guess what is something you would want to tell other directors out there about Winter Guard, whether it's about your experience or whether it's what I wish I knew, just kind of tie it up, like what would you want them to know?
I'm trying to think on that. That's a pretty big question. It's a very big
question.
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is, you know, you have nothing to lose. Go for it. You can learn a lot. You'll learn a lot about yourself. You'll learn a lot about your kids. It's a chance to educate students that aren't getting that education year round. And not only the students, but also it's a chance for, I'm going to go back to things we've already talked about, like getting your administration involved, getting other faculty involved, making it more about the school rather than just about, you know, your band program. It's just an opportunity for you to grow as a person. And if you are thinking about doing it, go for it. And there are resources out there that can help you learn and guide you and point you in the right direction with decisions. So
I think one thing that I would like to say that I learned the hard way, as a younger instructor, or if you have a younger instructor, be wary as a band director. For those of you who don't have a color guard bigger than 30, you don't need to have multiple programs until you have got a clear delineation in the talent and your program has been operating year round for a while. And you've started to see some national success at a WGI regional or a WGI event, because that's when you have a team of 9 and a team of 8 or similar numbers, and you're calling them varsity and JV, and one's in the novice class and one's in the regional A class, or the regional A class and the triple A class. There really isn't a huge difference in the skill set and the training of your members. And what you're really doing is paying double circuit fees and double administrative costs when you really could sink all that money into making your entire team better. And it's okay to have a larger team. I think that there's a current fear out there that a larger team is dirtier. And it's like, no, they're only that way if you don't train them and clean them. So don't be afraid to feel that larger team and grow all those kids together and pool those resources instead of dividing the resources and then having to buy 2 sets of costumes and 2 sets of flags and figuring out how to beg, borrow, or steal 2 sets of floors, because that's wasting your resources. And I think that a lot of people don't see it from that point of view.
From my perspective, we talk about the marching band as being the ambassadors of the band program and the most visible aspect of the band program. And what a lot of people fail to realize is that the winter guard and winter ensembles in general do that on a much more digestible level. So if you have community members or parents or grandparents, or even just potential students, potential members who are taking dance lessons or involved in other similar or tangentially related activities, it's a lot easier to show them a 4-minute winter guard show in the relative comfort of a gym than it is to expect them to be able to break down 10 minutes of 150 people screaming at them from a football field. It can be a pathway in for a lot of folks who maybe don't enjoy or can't comprehend what we enjoy about marching band. So don't just do it for the education. Don't just do it for the trophy, but also consider it another valid path to bringing people into the fold and under the umbrella of your band program, because it can sucker them in.
Yeah, I think we've all been sucked in for life. Well, thank you guys for coming and taking time out of your evening to like chat and get this series started. And we're going to keep talking about winter guard because it's winter guard season. A lot of people hitting their premieres and jumping in. And so I think this is going to be a pretty invaluable series of chats. And I hope we'll have you guys back for some other things. But thank you, and I appreciate you. And if you need anything, please, reach out to any of us. Obviously, if you're watching the video, whether it's Marching Bandworks, whether it's Hipp Visual Solutions, whether it's Mr. Padgett or Mr. Padgett for their invaluable resources. They're pretty talented at what they do. But thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
What's that?
Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it. This is our first venture into this, and I think it's going to be really great.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.